So this vignette is about what do we name the baby? What is the zone nomenclature for a prostatic mass? And we're going to start right out in the middle of the prostate gland, where we have a central gland, surgical capsule, peripheral zone or gland. In the central gland, we have the transitional zone, or the TZ. We're going to have one on the right and one on the left. So here's the TZ on the right, and here's the TZ on the left, and you can see it's a pretty big area. And we're going to divide that up into two. We're going to have a TZA and a TZP for anterior and posterior. And we're going to have one on the left and one on the right. So we'll have a right TZA, right TZP, left TZA, left TZP. Urethra is going to be in the middle with the periurethral plexus. We'll draw it in just for giggles for now. We'll say it's right about here. Then in the front, we've got a lentiform or arcuate-shaped structure that's pretty dark. We'll give it another color. Let's give it yellow. And we're going to have the anterior fibromuscular stroma, or anterior stroma, also known as the AS region. So we're going to have right AS and left AS, and they do meet in the midline. And then we have the peripheral zone at the mid-level of the prostate gland. Now, the peripheral zone is going to be divided up into several regions. So let's do that with a little bit thinner pencil, if you will. Let me take a color that works for us. Let's try something like purple. So we've got the peripheral zone. We've got a PZA for anterior, so right PZA for the patient's right side. Then we're going to have a PZP. My writing skills have deteriorated, but there's a PZP. And then we're going to have a PZM for medial or mesial. Both mean the same thing. And then we run into our little indentation, our little raphe in the midline, which sometimes can have a little linear low signal associated with it, or a little nodular low signal, but smack dab in the midline, not diffusion restricting, and not vascular. So we're going to have the same anatomic designations on the left side as we do on the right. Let's go down, shall we? Let's go down to the apex of the prostate gland. Things get a little more dicey down here. It's a little tougher to separate things out. Let's stay down at a level where we can still see some peripheral zone. So this patient, there's a little brighter peripheral zone, and we're going to have the same designations, PZA, PZP, and PZM. The darker lentiform AS on the right, I'm going to color it in. I'll make the AS, let's make that orange. The AS on the right is a little fatter than it is on the left. So the AS assumes a more prominent position here, and the transitional zone is much smaller. This is going to be the transitional zone. We don't have any central zone down low. So the central gland is all TZ. So let's color in the TZ, and let's use something like blue. So here's our TZ right there. And we get a suggestion that may be a little urethra there in the center of that. Now let's color in the PZ. That's the brighter area, the peripheral zone. So let's make that red. So here's the right arcuate-shaped PZ, and I'm going to color it in for you. The right side is a little bit fatter down low than the left side, which is admittedly a little harder to see, but it's right there. And you're going to have a PZA, a PZP, and a PZM down low. So no central zone in the central gland down low. And there's your levator sling and some periprostatic fat down low with your rectum behind. Now let's work our way up to the prostate base. So we're going to go up to the base. Now when you're describing these zones, you're going to say PZA base, PZA apex. So not only are you going to say right versus left, not only are you going to say PZA, PZP, PZM, but you're going to say base, up high, mid, in the middle, apical, down low. So now we're up high, and in the posterior-superior quadrant, up high, you run into some central zone. So where is the central zone in the central gland up high? Going to be in the back. So let's make that, I like green for the central zone. So let's get something nice and green, and the central zone is going to be here. It's going to have kind of an arc shape to it, and it's really not very distinguishable from the transitional zone. But that would be about the area of the central zone. The rest of this is going to be transitional zone, and you get a suggestion along this raphe that the urethra is right there. So let's color in the rest of the TZ up at the base. So we'll use something like brown. TZ is going to be pretty big. And then up higher, we don't have as much anterior fibromuscular stroma, so we'll make the fibromuscular stroma something like orange. It's going to be right here. And up high, we're running out of road, so we don't see much peripheral zone up high in concert with the sagittal projection. So once again, central zone, part of the central gland, transitional zone, part of the central gland. We'll have a TZA and a TZP, and then we'll have the AS, the fibromuscular stroma, or anterior stroma, anteriorly. Now for a moment, hopefully you've been tracking our progress on the T1 weighted image. You can see how faceless the prostate is on the T1 weighted image. When we get to the base, we do see the seminal vesicles. They're going to be gray on the T1 weighted image. There's one other thing I'd like to point out to you, if we can spot it, do a little train spotting here. There's your rectum, here's your prostate, and the T1 weighted image, along with the T2 weighted image, act in concert to show us the status of the anatomic capsule. So we're looking for something big and gray and dark abutting this capsule. The bigger it is, the more likely the capsule is to be invaded. So when you start to get over 1.5 abutment of the capsule, the incidence of capsular crossing goes up. Over 2 starts to dramatically go up. Now when you look at the capsule on the T1, you're looking at the fat. The fat can be a little bit asymmetric. If you think you've got fatty invasion but you see nothing on the T2, you're wrong. Now there's another structure that fits in very nicely in our description of the capsule. There's the capsule, and then we kind of lose it a little bit, but that is not the capsule right there. Let me make it even a little bigger. That is the serosa and Denon-Villiers fascia, the rectoprostatic fascia. The T2 is pretty good. The T1 is better in the axial projection to show you transgression of that fascia. But that concludes our discussion of zonal anatomy. Talked a little bit about the capsule. The surgical capsule is defined as the junction between the central gland and peripheral gland. We're going to look for transgression of that when we have central zone lesions that cross it. For if you have a charcoal lesion that crosses that surgical capsule, you got problems, and then you start going into your zonal naming anatomy, which we just covered.